Evelyn Hayes had only been at the opulent Sterling estate for a few days, a silent shadow among the polished marble and hushed corridors. She was just the new help, barely seen, certainly not truly known. No one cared about her tightly laced boots or her worn hands. They simply handed her a dust rag and pointed her to the staff quarters. This colossal mansion, with its gleaming pillars and endless glass, was a fortress, not just against outsiders, but against the very stories of people like Evelyn. The owner, Arthur Sterling, a titan of industry, spoke to no one beneath his station, unless it involved a broken heirloom or a quarterly report. His world wasn't cold, it was meticulously insulated, utterly devoid of inconvenient emotion. Then there was Lily, his 10-year-old daughter. Delicate as a whisper, yet burdened by the relentless grip of sickle cell disease, Lily rarely spoke, not to the bustling kitchen staff, nor to the chauffeur drivers, and certainly not to her distant father. Her days unfolded in a quiet sunroom, swathed in soft sweaters and even softer silence. But Evelyn, with an empathy that cut through the mansion's indifference, noticed. Oh, how she noticed! Lily's steps weren't light. They were shuffles. Her smiles were fleeting, thin cracks in a carefully maintained facade. Yet, no one truly saw, no one truly looked. They simply ensured her medicines were stocked, the rooms pristine, her meals warm. Was that truly enough? The questions haunted Evelyn, soft as ghosts in the vast hallways. Why had the night nurse left early yesterday? Why had she seen Lily trembling, a tiny, frightened bird near the bathroom? Why did no one, not a single soul, seem to care? On her fourth morning, carrying Lily's breakfast tray, Evelyn paused at the girl's door. A gentle knock, no reply. Slowly, she eased it open. What she saw froze her breath. Lily was on the floor, not unconscious, but curled in a tiny ball, eyes wide and unseeing, her breathing shallow, hands clutched to herself, as if holding her fragile spirit together. There was no panic in Evelyn, no fear, just an immense, heavy stillness. She set the tray down, said nothing, asked nothing. Instead, she sank to the floor, cross-legged beside the child. Quiet. After what felt like an eternity, Lily's voice, a fragile thread, whispered, "It hurts today." Evelyn simply nodded. "I know." It wasn't a moment that shook the world, not yet, but something profound, something invisible and tender, had just shifted. Downstairs in the sterile service hall, two older housekeepers gossiped over folded linens. "Give her a week," one scoffed, smoothing a sheet with disdain. "She's far too soft for this place. She's got that look, you know," the other murmured, "like she's seen real struggle. And struggle doesn't last long here." They chuckled. A brittle sound. Evelyn passed, her arms laden with fresh pillowcases, silent, but every cruel syllable pierced her heart. That evening, the mansion glowed with an indifferent golden light. Arthur returned late, as always. Lily wasn't there to greet him. He never expected her to be. Evelyn, cleaning the upstairs study, found her gaze drawn to the imposing, locked office door at the hall's end. Security sensors pulsed above it, high clearance, off limits, a stark reminder of her place. Yet, from behind the closed door, she could almost hear a faint tick-tock. Was it just a clock? Or was it the relentless march of time about to run out? The next morning dawned under a sky heavy with storm clouds, casting the mansion in a perpetual twilight. Arthur had departed before sunrise for some far-flung business venture in Zurich or Singapore, a goodbye an unnecessary formality. Evelyn moved through her chores with practiced efficiency, but an unsettling unease gnawed at her. Lily hadn't appeared for breakfast. By 9, the head housekeeper was loudly fretting over a misplaced detergent order. By 10, the rest of the staff were meticulously preparing the outdoor patio for a lavish investor dinner next week. Lily? She was utterly forgotten. A deep, visceral tug in Evelyn's chest pulled her back to Lily's room. She knocked twice, a silent plea. No answer. With a surge of dread, she opened the door, and the world seemed to slow. Lily lay half off the bed, her body drenched in sweat, hands trembling, lips parched. She was unnaturally contorted, as if battling an invisible enemy from within. The air hung thick with a sharp, sickening scent of plastic and raw fear. "Lily!" Evelyn gasped, dropping to her knees. The girl's eyelids fluttered weakly. Her breathing was a ragged, horrifying sound, like shards of glass tearing at her lungs. Evelyn's own hands shook uncontrollably. She fumbled for the emergency call button by the wall. Dead. She sprinted to the hallway phone, desperately dialing the nurse's number. Straight to voicemail. She tried Arthur's number 4 rings, then 5, then nothing. She slammed the receiver down, a desperate cry escaping her lips. Downstairs, the other housekeeper's laughter echoed from the pantry. Evelyn burst into the hallway, breathless, her eyes wild with terror. I need help. Someone. Lily's. We don't go upstairs without clearance, one interrupted, without even bothering to turn. She needs a hospital, now, Evelyn pleaded, her voice cracking. The second housekeeper waved her off with an irritated flick of the wrist. We'll inform the estate manager. That's the process. Process? Evelyn's fists clenched, her mind racing. She spun around, bolting back upstairs. Lily was barely conscious, her chest rising too fast. Too shallow. Evelyn glanced down the hallway, her eyes landing on Arthur's locked, private office. She'd never been inside, but she'd cleaned nearby enough to notice a tiny, almost invisible keyhole above the knob. And the key? It always hung from a bright red tag near the basement cleaning supplies, explicitly labeled "Do Not Remove," but she removed it. She flew downstairs, snatched the key from its hook. Unseen, sprinting back, she thrust it into the lock. A soft click. The door swung open, revealing a realm of hushed opulence. Rich leather, gleaming glass, framed accolades, a wall safe. On the polished desk, a Tesla key fob lay next to a thick clip of $100 bills. She hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. Evelyn carefully scooped Lily into her arms. Her arms trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer primal effort of carrying a child half her size, so tragically frail. She raced down the hall, every camera, every blinking light, every unspoken rule of the mansion screaming at her. But she didn't care. She burst through the front door, cradling Lily as if she were spun glass. The garage. The Tesla hummed, recognizing the key instantly, its door hissing open. The pristine white seats glowed. Evelyn gently laid Lily across the passenger side, buckled her in, whispering, "Hold on, sweetie." Then she slid into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and pressed the accelerator. The tires shrieked a protest as the luxury car tore out of the estate. Moments later, back at the mansion, a piercing alarm shrieked. Security screens flared blood red. Unauthorized access. Office breach. Vehicle missing. Inside the speeding car, Evelyn gripped the wheel, her knuckles white. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Lily's head lolled back, her skin a terrifying, ashen gray. The GPS blinked, but Evelyn ignored it. She knew the fastest road to the best hospital, not just the closest. Traffic became a blur of flashing lights and blaring horns. Her heart hammered a frantic rhythm louder than the roaring engine. "Hold on," she chanted in her mind, a desperate prayer. "Just hold on." Behind her, 2 sleek black SUVs were already peeling away from the mansion gates. Security had tracked the vehicle. Evelyn had no idea they were closing in. The hospital entrance, a beacon of sterile white, loomed as the Tesla screeched to a halt in the emergency lane. Evelyn didn't wait for assistance. She leapt out, flung the door open, unbuckled Lily, and lifted her as if she weighed nothing, though every step felt like dragging an impossible burden uphill. "Help!" she cried, bursting through the sliding doors. "Please, someone, she has sickle cell. She can't breathe." Nurses swarmed, a crash cart rattling close behind. Lily was carefully placed on a gurney, a fragile porcelain doll, her tiny limbs unnervingly still. Doctors barked urgent commands. "Parent or guardian?" someone demanded. "I'm the maid," Evelyn repeated, her voice raw. "I'm the maid. There was no one else." They didn't question further, whisking Lily away. And then, a deafening silence. Evelyn stood alone, utterly exposed in the blinding white of the lobby. The full weight of her actions crashed down. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to drive that car. She wasn't supposed to touch that money. She wasn't supposed to matter. But none of those rules had saved Lily. And now the consequences were terrifyingly real. Outside, tires screamed. 2 black SUVs skidded to a stop, flanking the hospital entrance. Estate security, Four grim-faced men in crisp navy jackets, radios crackling at their shoulders, poured out. No shouts, no questions. One simply pointed, "That's her." Evelyn didn't run, didn't flinch. She simply turned, slowly, as they advanced. They encircled her without a word, the cold metal of handcuffs already clicking shut on her wrists before she could even blink. A nurse, peering from the sliding doors, cried out, "Hey, what are you doing? She just saved a patient's life." A guard's voice was icily calm. "She stole a billionaire's vehicle and cash. She's under arrest." Arthur Sterling arrived a mere 15 minutes later, impeccable gray suit, sleeves rolled, eyes as cold as granite. He moved through the hospital like he owned it, which, in a sense, he did. The head of security met him. "She's in holding. Local PD is en route. Vehicle recovered, still tallying the cash." Arthur's jaw tightened. "And Lily? Stabilizing her now, sir. Barely made it in time." He offered no reaction, hands still tucked in his pockets. A statue of indifference. Then a doctor approached. A man in his mid-50s, his demeanor calm yet unyielding. "Arthur Sterling?" Arthur gave a curt nod. The doctor sighed, a sound heavy with grave truth. "Mr. Sterling, you need to grasp this. Your daughter has sickle cell. When a crisis strikes, minutes, even seconds are everything. If that young woman hadn't brought her here precisely when she did." The doctor's voice trailed off, then delivered the crushing blow. "She would have died." The word hung in the sterile air, a chilling echo. Arthur blinked, once, twice. "Your phones were off. Your staff unreachable. Your security protocol far too slow. That girl saved her. Not you, not your elaborate systems, her." The doctor turned and walked away, leaving Arthur standing utterly alone, staring at the impersonal floor tiles. In the small, stark holding room, Evelyn sat, wrists still cuffed, shoulders rigid, the sweat drying on her neck. No tears, no pleas, just an empty stare at the wall. The door creaked open. She turned slowly. Arthur stepped in, alone, no guards, no lawyers. He looked at her then, truly saw her perhaps for the very first time. She met his gaze, her eyes red-rimmed, but defiant. For a long silent moment nothing was said. Then he reached into his pocket, produced a small silver key, and with a soft click, released her wrists. Still no words. "Come with me," he finally said, his voice quiet, almost vulnerable. Evelyn hesitated until he added, "She's asking for you." The hallway to room 2014 was eerily quiet, too quiet for a place where life had just clung by the thinnest of threads. Arthur led the way. Evelyn followed, her steps light but uncertain, as if the very floor beneath her might vanish. Inside, Lily lay nestled under a sea of pale blue blankets, an IV gently dripping. Her breathing was steady now, soft, rhythmic. Her tiny fingers tapped a silent song against the blanket, a melody only she could hear. When her eyes met Evelyn's, her face just for a fleeting second illuminated. "Evelyn," she whispered. It was the only voice in that room that asked nothing of her, simply acknowledged her presence. Evelyn stepped forward, gently taking Lily's fragile hand. Arthur stood back, watching it all unfold, a silent, transformed man. Later that evening, as the sky blushed rose and the city lights twinkled awake, something shifted irrevocably. Arthur emerged from Lily's room, no longer just a billionaire, but a father, humbled and raw. He had finally witnessed someone else step up, bravely, where he had failed, and the searing guilt settled heavily in his chest. By morning, the internet was abuzz, not with truth, but with distorted whispers. Black Maid arrested for stealing billionaire's car, possible kidnapping of heiress. Sources say daughter in critical condition. The world didn't wait for facts. It feasted on sensationalism. But by noon, the unimaginable happened. A press release from Arthur Sterling's office, announcing a live public statement that very evening. It stunned everyone, even his own staff. That night, cameras flashed relentlessly. Reporters jostled for position on the grand Sterling lawn. The mansion gates swung open like a curtain rising on an unexpected drama. Arthur stood behind the podium, no tie, no assistant whispering cues. Beside him, Evelyn, not in a uniform but a simple, modest gray dress, pressed just minutes before. Her hair was pulled back, her shoulders squared though her hands still trembled ever so slightly. Arthur took a deep, fortifying breath. Then he spoke, his voice resonating with an unfamiliar conviction. Last night, my daughter nearly died. The only reason she is alive today is because of the remarkable woman standing beside me. Yes, she broke rules. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, the rules are the problem. No one else acted, no one else ran. No one else cared with such fierce determination. Evelyn Hayes did what I could not, and the world deserves to know her name. A hushed pause, then a wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Reporters leaned forward, camera shutters clicking like rapid gunfire. Effective immediately, Arthur continued, his voice gaining strength. Evelyn will not only remain a vital part of my household, she will never work as a maid again. I have established a trust in her name, and she will oversee our family's medical outreach foundation from this day forward. Evelyn turned to him, utterly stunned, her breath catching in her throat. But he wasn't finished, because if we are truly to build systems that protect children like my daughter, they must be led by people who act, not merely speak. Inside the mansion that night, the whispers were different now. She's staying, one staff member muttered from behind a curtain. More than staying, another replied, a hint of awe in their voice. She's running things now. Evelyn walked past them, a gentle smile gracing her lips. Not out of malice, but because for the very first time in her life, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She was walking on solid ground. Lily recovered slowly, but with each passing week, she grew stronger, her laughter echoing through the very walls that had once tried to silence the brave woman who saved her. They had called her just a maid. But now she was the woman who had dared to rewrite the rules. And the billionaire who had once been blind to her presence was the first to stand proudly beside her when the world finally opened its eyes. Sometimes, the people we casually overlook are the ones who rise to the occasion when it truly matters. Evelyn wasn't just a maid. She was the reason a little girl was given a precious second chance at life. So, the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their station, remember what this extraordinary woman risked, and what she ultimately became. Real heroes don't wait for permission. They act.